Good afternoon. Once again, my name is Jeffrey Obi. I'll be your host for today. So, this is the second day, more like the second Saturday, where we get to catch up some more on our conversation in this bootcamp. So, today's topic is straightforward, coming from the understanding that we have had some sort of insights into what Agile Scrum is about. We'll then be going straight into more details to provide you some concepts and context around Agile Scrum. I would also be providing some context around delivery roles, giving you some information as it relates to the different roles and where you sit, really, what you can actually do within those roles, especially when you're able to think about what you currently do and you align. Then I would be introducing you some very critical project concepts that helps you to begin to put yourself in the in that mindset when it comes to project delivery, especially when agile is discussed. Now, this bootcamp is sponsored by the Agile Foundation eSchool, and on the call, like I mentioned earlier, is Jeffrey Obi. I'm a training specialist, a certified product owner, and I currently work in the capacity of training specialist for the Agile Foundation eSchool. Of course, we have our partners, the Right Plug NG, the marketing and managing partner with us as well. So I'll just go straight to it. Now, I like to, by way of introduction, take us a bit back to the conversation we had during the first session. So recall that we started out by saying that there's a thing called project management paradox, where people who, of course, may have the mindset or they might be thinking about joining the project management space but do not necessarily know where to start from. Okay, so this bootcamp largely aims to help solve that puzzle, aims to help provide clarity as you navigate your path or as you find your footing within the project management space. So that paradox still exists. Just to bring our attention to where we started out from, and I want to believe that that paradox still exists in some of our minds. But again, in today's session, we would aim to provide even more clarity as to helping us find our footings in project management. In an attempt to help us, in some sort of way, we actually gave feedback during the course of the last session to say that one of the very easy way out of the dilemma or the chaos, you can see the human being on the screen who is probably wondering, where do I go from here? Do I become a project manager? Do I become a product manager? Is it agile that I should go for? Is it Prince 2? Is it certification? What sort of certification am I aiming for? Is it AI certification am I going for? All those questions, we tried to answer them last week by simply saying that for you to go into project management, even if you must have been introduced to this space by either a friend, colleague, or you see someone doing something because of the way their lives have been positioned, you think is something you can actually do and you are thinking about actually doing it, it's important you seek mentorship. It's important you speak to a professional. At the very least, you are able to be given guidance. They're able to provide some level of guidance, helping you to navigate that path. Okay, so if anytime you hear about the fact that project management is one of the most in-demand career skills in the world, it is true. So before you dive into it head first, make sure that you seek this sort of guidance. Otherwise, this chaos going on in this screen, my presentation slide, would be the case. If you do not seek clarification, you do not seek guidance, you would find yourself jumping into the murky waters with a lot of questions, not that are not to be answered by yourself, because those sort of questions may take you off the track that you are meant to actually be on. So it's important you ask the right questions, seek the right mentorship, and take on the right trainings that help you to, pretty much guide your steps in this context. Okay, so I just thought to bring this up so that I bring our minds up to speed, because while it is important that we chase the most in-demand skills or the career path in the world, it's also very important that we try to solve the paradox. We try to see to it that we do not fall victims of this web. All right, I go straight to the topic for today, just to give us some bit of background. What is project and what is a product? During the course of the last session, we explained vividly that a project is a temporary venture, and by temporary we are saying it must have a start and end time. So it's a temporary venture that aims to introduce a change, to produce a unique outcome with the help of a cross-functional team while navigating uncertainties. And we explained some of these highlighted terms, like temporary to mean time bound. So a project must typically have a start and end time. We explained a change to mean that a project must bring about something new. Okay, it must introduce something new. So you can't go into a project and not find that there's an outcome that is not new. Okay, so introducing a change, that process of where we are to where we want to be, is that change process, the as is and to be, like the BAs would want to call it. Now that's a very key or critical element of a project. So the unique outcome is always the end product of a project. So there's always that unique outcome. Okay, so there's always something you are aiming for you to embark on any project. Now, with the help of a cross-functional team, and that cross-functional team, like we defined or like we explained during the course of the first session, we said that a cross-functional team is simply saying people from different knowledge base. So you can find project managers working closely with the software testers, working closely with the project coordinators, with the program managers, all these team members, inclusive of the business analysts, the development team. All these guys are coming together with their unique skills. So we call them cross-functional because they have different skill sets across board, but they come together, in that cross manner to deliver value or to deliver result or the outcome as we are, as we have it in this context, while navigating uncertainties. So uncertainties in this case is simply saying that as you are trying to introduce something new, there would always be uncertainties, there will always be risks, there will always be issues that we would have to deal with. So those uncertainties, things that we did not foresee would happen, things that we foresee will happen, and things that would eventually happen, all those concepts or all those aspects of things are actually part and parcel of a project. So when you're involved in a project and certain things are happening that you had not planned for, yes, it is part of being in a project as either a project manager, business analyst, scrum master, product owner, or whatever role you are playing. So it is part of it. However, a product is, according to my definition here, is the lasting outcome created by a project. If the project is the focused effort, for instance, to be built, then the product is the valuable result that remains. So what is simply saying is that everything that is happening at the project level, the reason why it is happening is because we want to achieve the product level. We want to achieve an outcome. So the outcome of a project is actually what we call a product. All right? So product is actually an outcome of a project. So I thought to bring this, comparison so that we can begin to understand and appreciate the difference or the differences between this concept. Very, very important we do, because projects are unique, products are unique. However, projects are aimed at producing unique outcomes, whereas the outcome that we are referring to in this context is a product. So this concept would help us to understand where a project manager sits and where a product manager sits. So the reason I'm introducing this is just to help you to be in that headspace where by the time I start discussing product management and project management, you are able to relate, because project management relates to project dealing or handling of a project, whereas product management outlives the project. It goes not just from the project perspective, it goes down to post-project. It involves marketing activities, it involves post-project, basically. So we'll go deeper into this concept, into these roles. Where when I start discussing the roles, we'll go deeper into this concept and we make some clarifications even further in that context. All right. Now, let's take some few steps backward and again try to catch up on what Agile is, because you cannot be talking about a project when you do not know the delivery approach, because a project is actually a project by the definition I initially just provided. However, for any venture to be executed called a project, it has to be done using like a vehicle. Just think about it, that a project is the goods, whereas the outcome, for you to achieve the product, you need to put the goods into a vehicle and then drive the goods to where you want the goods to get to. So see Agile-Scrum as the vehicle or the delivery approach for helping you drive a project, providing you with all the framework or all the rules, all the guidelines for delivering this project, telling you what you actually need to do to deliver the project. So Agile, Scrum specifically, that we are dealing with, because Scrum is a framework under Agile. So specifically, Scrum helps you with certain rules and certain processes or protocols for delivering this project. So you do not just deliver projects, you deliver them following certain protocols. So see it from that perspective. So it's important for us to talk about Agile Scrum at this point, so that when we are talking about projects, it even makes better sense to us. It even makes complete sense in this context, because you would better understand why a project or how a project can be delivered, all right, beyond the definition of a project. So Scrum is a lightweight Agile framework. It's a framework used to solve complex problems and deliver value step by step. I have it here as well to say it helps the teams work in short cycles called the sprints. So there's something called sprints. It also helps to deliver small usable results, incrementals as they are called, and then you are able to learn and improve continuously as you deliver on the project. And Scrum is simple but powerful, according to what you have here on my screen. It gives structure, not detailed instructions. So it gives you structure, but it relies on your ingenuity as well as a cross-functional team to come up with certain aspects of your job that helps the project to thrive. All right. So I think at this point, I'd like to take a quick pause and ask if there are questions, because I like for this session to also be interactive. So if there are questions or anything at all you want to talk about, either the question is coming from the conceptual provisions I made around product and project. If you're confused at any rate, or you want to have any questions thrown at me at this point, I'd like for you to unmute, just unmute and speak. Okay, fine. Thank you so much for that question. For the audience, the guys listening in from other channels that may not have heard you, so I would just like to reiterate your question. Adewumi, your question is that from like before now, you've been thinking that a product has to be tangible for it to be a product, like a physical product, but my definition made it look as though it's not a tangible thing. Am I correct? Just to be sure that I'm speaking your mind. Perfect. So the idea is that Adeomi is saying that before now he believes that a product has to be a tangible item or a tangible stuff, anything that has to be, it just has to be tangible, that you can hold, touch, or feel. But by my definition, I sounded more like a product could either be tangible or service. Okay, so yes, the truth is that a product can either be tangible or a service, or an outcome that is a service. I'll give two examples of products. One, tangible, the other service-based. So the latest, for instance, there's iPhone 17 now, I want to believe. I don't know the latest one that is coming up, but I want to know that there's iPhone 17. Before iPhone 17 became iPhone 17, there must have been a product team. And this product team will be made up of project teams, such that these teams would go on what we call requirement gathering, market research, trying to understand and hear from the customers as to what, basically thinking about what the customers are thinking about, trying to understand what the customers are thinking about. So these guys would have they will have series of engagement with the customers, trying to understand what they want, and the customers, after having provided all the details, the business analyst really, in this context, or a product owner, or the product owner, yes, is responsible for gathering this requirement largely and then documenting them as user stories, as acceptance criteria, or systems requirements, as we may have it. So of course there are details to that. When should you opt for the business analysis training, for instance, there are details to how the business analysts do their thing, but for now, I'll just leave it at there's something the business analyst would have to do. That's called requirement gathering. Okay, now they go about gathering requirements, understanding. That's before iPhone 17, mind you. Now after that, they come together, piece together what they have gathered. Oh, the customer is saying they need three lights. Some like the customers are saying that they need their favorite color is orange. The customer is saying that the last iPhone 16 is very heavy, that they need something light. The customers are saying that of course the iPhone do not have buttons, but the customers are now saying, can iPhone have a version that has buttons, like buttons you can actually click on? The customers are saying, well, the iPhone thing, the cloud-based iPhone services are too restricted. Can we even more or less liberalize it a bit and make some Android users want more Android phones? Because a lot of restrictions, cloud-based restrictions, a lot of things, of course, for security reasons, which again differentiate iPhone from most users. Now, I've just given different information as to what the customers could demand for, but it's in the discretion of the business to know, one, these are customer demands. Do we fulfill this demand? Do we have the money or what it takes to fulfilling this demand? Should we defer this particular customer need for now, defer it to the future? If we defer it, would there be consequences in terms of the acceptability of this product? Should we launch them, or should we eventually go into delivering them? So a lot of markets research, a lot of cost benefit analysis, a lot of analysis has to go into the works. After that, once the business is certain as to what to do or how to go about delivering iPhone 17, they will commission a project team. A project team would be put together with the software tester will be there, someone who will test the final product at the end of the day. They would have, we call such people quality assurance, QA people or QA guys. We'll have a project manager who would ensure that all the team working on iPhone 17, from the technical team working on the software to the hardware team working on the hardware, the project manager would ensure that using, for instance, the Scrum delivery approach, every fortnightly meetings will be held, demos will be held to show, oh, this is what we've done, this is what we've not done, and daily there will be daily stand-up meetings as to getting updates from the teams to say, what have you done today, or what did you plan to do today, or what have you achieved, or are there blockers? Daily stand-up meetings would hold, and all those activities. Now, this project team are working with timeline in mind. So they are working between it could be between the 1st of January 2026 to the 1st of September 2026 that they aim to work and bring about iPhone 17 as a product. So this period in time is called a temporary period. Of course, that's why temporary is in that definition of a project that I advanced earlier. So they would work within this time. And the team I'm talking about are cross-functional because you already have a project manager. You have a project manager to start with. You have a project manager. You have a business analyst. You have the hardware engineers. You have the software engineers in this case because it involves tangible products. So you have a cross-functional team of project managers, business analysts, software engineers, hardware engineers. Think about development teams. The guys will be working on the different, then the QA guys, the quality assurance guys. You have all these team members. So they are cross-functional in nature. Again, that points us to the cross-functional nature of a project team. Now, at the end of September 1st, that's at the end of the project by September 1st, you would find that iPhone 17 would be launched as a product. Not so? Yes. So iPhone 17 will be launched as a product after having gone through the project phase. Okay? So iPhone 17 is a tangible product. You can hold, touch, and feel it. It's tangible, but it passed through a project phase. And that's what I'm trying to bring, in this analogy or in this explanation or, explanation that I've been advancing earlier than now. I'll give another explanation to help you understand how a product can also be intangible. Today, I want to believe you must have maybe placed an order on popular websites like Amazon. Amazon is a product, but it goes through a project phase, just like the tangible product. It goes through the project phase with the different features, the same features, like the cross-functional team. It involves cross-functional team. It involves a timeline of start and end time. It involves risks and uncertainties and all the different features as described earlier when describing projects. However, Amazon today is a website. You can't touch it, you can't feel it, but you can see it. It's intangible. It's not tangible that you can hold. Amazon offers services. Amazon is a product where different services are offered, including where tangible products are sold. So Amazon as a website or as a platform is a good example of a product that are not tangible. All right. So I started explaining Agile-Scrum by saying that Agile-Scrum is a delivery approach. So while you have a project, so you have a venture you want to deliver, and you want to arrive at a product at the end of the day, either tangible or intangible, but you need some guidance, you need some principles, and you need some, certain guidelines. For instance, there are update meetings and the frequency of these update meetings that you will be provided the guidelines for when you adopt Scrum as a framework for delivering projects, because Scrum subscribes to what we call daily stand-up meetings. It means that if you are delivering a project, you are practicing Scrum, it means that daily you are expected to have meetings, daily stand-up meetings. That is the standard. Anything short of that, it means you're not delivering this project using Scrum. Now, Scrum had put these processes and principles in place to guide team members and to guide projects towards success. Because any project that do not have a structure or that do not have a framework that it follows would most likely be left in the hands of unseriousness at the very best, because you're not timing yourself. For instance, imagine a project that is not conscious of time. Imagine a project that do not follow through with feedback, that do not introspect, that do not, as you're delivering the project, you are, such projects do not gauge how far they have come. You're not gauging your success factors. You're not trying to monitor what you have done versus what is left undone. And you're trying to ask questions as to, are we moving in the right pace? Are we, we have this timeline. Are we on track? There is definitely need for structure in any project delivery. And that's why today you find there are different project delivery structures, including the frameworks that we are discussing today, Agile framework, which provides you with certain principles and certain approach for delivering project. So like you see here, it says that it works in short circles. I will be showing how that happens when I go to the next slide to discuss even a bit more detail into what Scrum is. Now, how does Scrum work? This will give you more details into what Scrum exactly is. Scrum, like I started out saying, is an agile framework for delivering projects. It provides you with guidelines, provides you with structure for delivering projects. So it tells you pretty much, it tells you how to go about delivering the project, what you need to do at what point, and it gives you that sort of structure. Okay, so as a project team, as a project manager, or as a Scrum master, following the Scrum structure, you pretty much know what to do. Now, it's important you note that there are special trainings, of course, offered by the Agile Foundation eSchool that will help you understand Scrum, the entirety of Scrum, from the theoretical to the application of it, so that when you talk about Scrum as a framework, you are not only talking about someone who has an idea about Scrum, you are living it. So here, how Scrum works is simple. Scrum has 3 rules, or recognizes 3 rules. Scrum recognizes 5 events, and Scrum recognizes 3 artifacts. 3 rules that you can find for every project being delivered within the Agile Scrum framework. You would always find 3 core rules: product owner role, Scrum master role, and developer. The developer, or developers in this case, involves the front-end developers, the engineers, the database administrators, the quality assurance persons, all the guys that are doing the heavy lifting. The technical team are often referred to as developers. Scrum masters are guys who are basically the servant leaders. Product owners are the guys who do the requirement gathering, like I hinted earlier. I will go a bit even more detail as to these different roles subsequently. So it involves these 3 rules and 5 events. The 5 events in this case includes the daily stand-up, that's the sprint daily stand-up. It involves, we call it the sprint because that's the entire cycle is called the sprint. So within that entire cycle of typically 2 weeks, typically it's a period of 2 weeks where activities happen. So it takes a break, it kicks on, it takes a break, it kicks on, because Agile Scrum, it works in a manner that it's iterative. I think I had highlighted that during the course of the last session. I had highlighted the fact that Agile is iterative. So after every cycle, every 2-week cycle, it takes a break, it assesses itself. What did I do wrong? How do I improve on the next sprint? So I can decide to categorize work items into, say, 10 categories, and I'm working with 2 categories of work items in this sprint. So within that sprint, I am focused on delivering 2 items of this project. I'm focused on just 2 items, and I'll focus on these 2 items until the sprint elapses. And for this period in time that we refer to as sprint, 5 events has to happen. The daily stand-up has to happen, and that has to be daily. But before the daily stand-up happens, there's something called sprint planning meeting. Sprint planning meeting is a meeting where you come together and you look at all you have to do, all the work items you have to do or work on. You look at all the work items, and then you go ahead to identify what you can work with or what you can do in this sprint. So if you have 10 things to be worked on, you can say, well, we can work with 3 during the course of this sprint, and you agree as a team and you put these 3 into the sprint. So this sprint period in 2 weeks, daily, something has to be done towards actualizing these 3 tasks. So every day, the daily stand-up meeting is that meeting where we come daily and we're asking ourselves, what did we do today about these 3 tasks? Then someone will say, well, I worked on the first task. I started working on the first task and I encountered a blocker. I couldn't make a subscription. Something happened. My laptop, broke down. A blocker, something that is hindering me from continuing. Now, the essence of having this daily stand-up is to get status updates. We want to know what's happening daily as we deliver on these tasks within the sprint. Now, at the end of the sprint, after 2 weeks or the second week, we come together as a team. There's something called review meeting or the demo, sprint demo. This sprint demo is a time period or it's a meeting where we come together and we ask ourselves, we show what has happened. So the developers comes and they say, well, we set out this sprint to achieve 3 tasks. Here are the 3 tasks. This is what it looks like. If there are contributions or if there's anything that is outside what we had done, please would require some sort of feedback from stakeholders to be able to make some fixes. Now the product owner looks at what has been done or achieved and says, well, I think that what has been done is okay, or I think that what has been done is not okay. Now, if the product owner says that what has been done is not okay, then it means by implication that we would be saying that we had not achieved our sprint goal. And in that context, there is every likelihood that we are going back into another sprint to delivering what we have failed to do. But if the product owner says that it is okay, that we are fine, then we consider those 3 items, we consider them to become increments. So increments, by implication, increments are outcomes of a sprint that has been accepted to have met the sprint goal. So increments, these are just terminologies. So increments are the outcomes of a sprint. Okay? Now, we have what we call retrospective meeting. After the sprint demo, where the developers come and they show us what they have done, we have another meeting that needs to be scheduled by the Scrum Masters, because Scrum Masters actually are the guys who schedule all these meetings. The Scrum Masters, they are the guys who schedule these meetings and ensure that everybody is in attendance. Okay? The sprint retrospective meeting is that meeting where the team come together and they're asking themselves, well, we have just come out of a successful sprint. All the activities we delivered checked out. We're happy about it. However, we must have identified certain blockers. We must have identified certain anomalies, or certain things might not have happened the way we had planned during the course of the sprint. So let's talk to ourselves now. Were there issues? How do we go from here that we ensure that such issues do not reoccur? So someone could speak up to say, for instance, oh, during the course of last sprint, although I delivered on my task, but I noticed that the way that a particular stakeholder was talking to me, I didn't like it. He was talking in a disrespectful manner. Now, that brings up a conversation around conflict resolution. Now, if we had not had that meeting, that retrospective meeting, for instance, we would not have had the opportunity to know that something as big as conflict is happening amongst the team. So you see how Agile-Scrum had provided us with an avenue where we have a meeting such as retrospective meeting where we just bear it all. We just talk about everything that happened during the course of the last meeting, sprints, and then we're able to resolve all those issues before we start another sprint, so that whatever issue we must have encountered during the last sprint will not repeat itself during the course of the next sprint. So when such happens, we talk to ourselves. Of course, the Scrum Master would engage, and deploying their skills on conflict resolution, they are able to ensure that both parties are happy. And then they're also able to reignite or re-emphasize on the fact that Scrum has three core pillars. It has three core pillars, and then it has 5 values. One of the 5 values of Scrum includes respect. So if for any reason there is no respect amongst team members as such has been raised during the course of retrospective meeting, it's the job of the Scrum Master to re-echo, to say that if there's no respect, teams would not collaborate and teams would not succeed in delivering tasks. So at the end of the day, you find that retrospective meetings affords us the opportunity to talk to ourselves. The Scrum Master also has the opportunity to re-echo some of the Scrum principles and practice and help us in the directions we should go, so that in the next sprint or in the coming sprint, we are able to drive. So you see, it's straightforward like that. And when we talk about artifacts are basically products backlog, sprint backlogs, and increments. So product backlogs are activities that are to be carried out. These are terminologies used by Agile-Scrum to describe activities. So product backlogs are backlog items. Backlog items are simply the to-dos. You know, like you have to-dos today. There are to-dos. Oh, I need to sweep the floor. Oh, I need to mop the floor. Oh, I need to paint the house. Those are to-dos, right? Those are what we call backlog items. But think about it a bit. When we talk about I need to paint the wall, that's a high-level task. That's a high-level to-do. What do you think you need to be able to paint the wall? You need a brush, you need a paint, you need a scrubber to scrub the wall, you need a professional who is able to do the job. So the product backlog is the broad term. I want to paint the wall. That's a product backlog. All the activities that are that broad, we just put them in a category of product backlogs. But the sprint backlog are the details drawn from the product backlog. So for it to be a sprint backlog, or for it to be an activity that has been moved from product backlog to sprint backlog, we then break it down. So what does it take to paint the wall? We then break it down. Oh, we need a brush. We need to scrub the wall. We need to do this. We need to do that. So we put that as a sprint activity. So all those broken down into detail are referred to as sprint backlog. Okay? And remember, I mentioned when I was explaining sprint demo, I said when activities put into any sprint is accepted after the demo to say we have achieved our sprint goal, it becomes an increment. So increment is an outcome of every sprint. So increment is one of the artifacts of Scrum, to say that every Scrum is aiming towards an outcome that meets the Scrum goal or that meets the sprint goal. So product backlog is clear now because that is high level. Oh, I want to mop the floor. Sprint backlog provides detail of the different activities you need to carry out before you are able to mop the floor. I need to fetch water. I need to get, I need to get a brush, or I need to get a mopper. I need to sweep the floor first before I'm able to mop it. So some of the things or the details or the different activities that you need to carry out would then be categorized as sprint backlog. Whereas at the end of the sprint, we then have what we call the increment. On my screen here, you can see the description of everything I have just explained. But I'll now put it in a visual form so that it makes a bit more sense to you. Now, before a sprint starts, a product owner must have gone to engage the customer. So I'll give an example so that this diagram, in explaining it, it can make even more sense to you. Before Amazon started, before Amazon became a platform, e-commerce platform, Jeff Bezos must have engaged a team to say that, hi guys, this is an idea I have. I want to build an e-commerce website that allows for resell. So I'm not only selling, I'm not going only going to be selling my own products on this platform. I would allow other sellers to be able to subscribe to this platform, and then they are able to also provide their services on my platform. So it's a concept where I'm selling on this platform and I'm allowing others to sell as well on this platform. Perfect. Now I would engage the product owner. The product owner would engage Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos would say, well, the first thing we need to, the product owner would say, well, the first thing we need to be thinking of is on this platform, which means there needs to be a product catalog where once a user jumps on this platform, they see all the products available on the platform. So product catalog becomes one of the features. Product catalog is now a product backlog item. We categorize product catalog as a backlog item. Okay. So the product owner, after engaging Jeff Bezos again, will say, well, the next thing from what you are saying, the next thing we can do is to have add to cart option. So there's a cart option. There's a cart option where a lot of activities can happen. So cart option, for checkouts and other activities can then be added. So cart option and product catalog view is, are the two backlog items that we would use in the context of the example we are dealing today. So we have product catalog as a backlog item, and then cart option as a product backlog item. Now the product owner comes to the project team, that's the Scrum team, and he of course engages the Scrum Master to organize a meeting. It's called the backlog grooming meeting. Calls the Scrum Master to organize the backlog grooming meeting. The Scrum Master organizes the meeting, invites the developers, that's the software tester, the front end, back end, the UI UX, all the guys that in the development team, invites them, invites the Scrum Master himself, then the product owner, and so everybody jumps on the call. So the product owner explains to the team that, guys, the client is saying that they need two work items. So these are my backlog items as a product owner, because it is the product owner that holds the product backlog item. So the product owner shares with the team to say that the first is the product backlog, which is the product catalog page. Now the team deliberates and says that, well, this catalog page would have catalog by users. So they are trying to break down this into sprint backlog. So the essence of having a product backlog meeting, which is called the grooming session, is where the team come together and they break down these activities or the product backlogs into tiny activities that they now put into the sprint backlog. So the team, after having heard of the product catalog, they are now thinking, well, this product catalog has to be segmented by users so that each user who is offering what is able to have a unique space. So on the landing page, beyond just having a product catalog, we need to have a product catalog, of course, for general products, but we need to categorize them by product type. So you see, we are breaking down the activity into categorized by product type, categorized by users or by sellers, so that when you get online, you're able to see different sellers and you're able to browse through their unique product catalog. So you see, just product backlog item called product catalog is generating different sprint backlog items. Categorization by product type, categorization by users, the color palettes that we decide on the colorations, how to present it, we decide all these details, and then we have them highlighted as what we call sprint backlog items. Typically we do that on Jira most times. From experience, we can do that on Jira We can do the categorization on Jira. We can do on Azure DevOps as well. So we have this categorized. Now, this analogy, we just concluded product backlog and we just converted it into what we call sprint backlog. It is this sprint backlog categorizing the products by type and categorizing the product by user, and we broke down the cart option, which is a product backlog. We broke it down into add to cart, remove from cart, checkout option. So we have 3 details. So we're not only looking at cart. Cart is the high level name or the high level feature, which is a product backlog, which is the content of a product backlog. A product backlog has to be high level. So a sprint backlog has to be detailed. Oh, add to cart, remove from cart, checkout, add discount from the cart page, those details. We then categorize them, each of them, like the 4 I've just highlighted. You categorize them into sprint backlog, and then now you are ready for a sprint. The Scrum Master goes ahead and set up a meeting called sprint planning meeting. That's the very first meeting. Once we get on the sprint planning meeting, we then decide how many items do we have in the sprint backlog. We have about 7 of them now. We have the add to cart, removed from cart. We have the promotional options. We have, the different backlog items I've just highlighted. Now we are in the sprint planning meeting. We looked at our sprint backlog items. There are 7 items, and we then decide to say, well, the only thing we can handle within 2 weeks is just the option add to cart and remove from cart, because that could involve a lot in terms of development. So we just pick those 2 items and say, this is what we are committing to this at this sprint. Those are the items we are committing. Now the development team, 24 hours after that sprint planning meeting, the development team gets to work every day. You can see 24 hours after that, daily, there's something called daily Scrum meeting. The development team comes and tells us how far they have come with the adding and removing from cart functionality that they are working on. Oh, they are telling you that they've started working on the codes, but they have encountered a blocker. You are helping them as a Scrum Master to remove those blockers, and also daily, there will be daily stand-up, and those stand-ups are update meetings. Now, for the remainder of the sprint, that daily meeting would happen. You can see my screen. This is the daily meeting that has to happen. And for the remainder of the sprint, this daily meeting has to happen. All right. Let me be sure that we're on the same page as well. For the remainder of that sprint, daily stand-up meetings has to happen. Okay, great. Now, remember, whatever that is going into a sprint must have been a sprint backlog item. And we have picked 2 sprint backlog items and we have put it into the sprint. At the end of the sprint, what we call sprint review meeting has to happen. You can see sprint review meeting has to happen. And if after the sprint review, we find that what we have delivered meets the requirement, that is when the product increment happens. That is when we can check to say that now these backlog items have been completed and they meet what we call the artifacts that we call product increment. Okay? And only after that can we begin to talk about the retrospective meeting. Only when we have confirmed that this sprint meets the the objective, the sprint goal, and we are good to go. That's when we can go ahead to conduct what we call a retrospect meeting. All right. Now, a retrospective meeting, basically, we are talking about thinking about what we have done well, what we have not done well, or how we have gone wrong during the course of the last sprint. Oh, are the team members on track? Are there challenges? How can we ensure that going forward, especially looking forward into the next sprint, when we pick more items from the sprint backlog into the sprint, how do we make sure that the course of the next sprint does not, impact us negatively? And by the time we answer all those questions and we're able to resolve, then we go back into the same circle. So everything I've just described is a process, an iteration is happening. And every single time, items are moved from product backlog items into the sprint backlog, into the sprint proper, and all the events or ceremonies would happen. And before you realize, we go over the same process again.